The default human trap. Why you're not living and how to start today. Have you ever noticed how life seems to come preloaded, like a phone with default settings you never chose? From the moment we're born, the world starts installing its programs. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, settle down, don't question too much. Most people never stop to ask who wrote this script or why they're following it so faithfully. But here's the catch. When everyone around you is running the same program, it doesn't feel like programming. It feels like reality. You scroll through social media and see the same milestones, weddings, promotions, mortgages, all lined up like checkpoints in a game you never agreed to play. Algorithms reward sameness. They quietly punish deviation. And before you know it, you're optimizing your entire life for likes, validation, and social approval instead of genuine fulfillment. That's the default human trap. Not a prison with walls, but a psychological maze built from expectations. You think you're making choices, but most of them were pre-selected long before you could even question them. You study what's practical. You work where it's safe. You chase goals that feel familiar because everyone else is chasing them too. And the scariest part? The system doesn't need to control you directly, it just needs you to stay comfortable. Think about this. When was the last time you did something that truly scared you? Not because it was dangerous, but because it was different. That hesitation, that subtle fear of stepping off the known path, is the voice of the default human whispering, "Don't." Every time you obey it, a little piece of your individuality fades. Yet the moment you start to question, even silently, the illusion begins to crack. You notice the patterns, the scripts, the invisible currents guiding people into the same lives. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because if your entire life has been built on inherited expectations, then what would it mean to rewrite the code?
Next, it's not propaganda, it's repetition. How the world trains us to fit the mold long before we ever realize it.
From the very beginning, we're taught that there's only one right way to live. A silent checklist passed down through generations. Be polite, fit in, don't stand out too much, get good grades, find a respectable career, start a family. It sounds harmless, even comforting, until you realize it's less about who you are and more about how well you conform. The moment you step off that path, people start to worry, not because you're lost, but because you've stopped following the map they trust. That's the echo chamber of expectation, a world that rewards imitation and quietly punishes individuality. From childhood, we're tuned to seek approval, to color inside the lines, to make choices that feel normal. And every time we comply, the echo chamber echoes back its approval. Good job, you're doing what you should. It feels safe, it feels right. But what it really means is that you're slowly outsourcing your identity to the collective. Then social media takes this conditioning and supercharges it. Algorithms don't just show us what's popular, they show us what to want. You see hundreds of people celebrating the same milestones, living the same filtered version of life. The engagement ring, the new car, the dream job. It's not propaganda, it's repetition. And repetition has a strange power. It makes the ordinary look inevitable. Before long, even your dreams start to sound like everyone else's. You don't just want a house, you want that kind of house. You don't just want success, you want their version of it. And if you fall behind, if your timeline doesn't match the invisible schedule of the crowd, that quiet panic sets in. The fear of missing out doesn't just make you scroll, it shapes your choices. You start sprinting toward milestones that were never meant for you, hoping they'll finally make you feel fulfilled. But here's the truth. The echo chamber doesn't end when you catch up. It just shifts the goalposts and whispers, keep going. It keeps you striving, comparing, performing, anything but questioning. And that's how the trap tightens, not with force, but with familiarity. Because what's more persuasive than the feeling that everyone else is doing it right?
Next, history is full of these invisible cages, when the choices you think are yours never really were.
We love to believe we're free, that every decision we make is a reflection of our unique personality, our independent will. But what if that sense of freedom is just the most elegant illusion ever designed? What if your choices were never really yours to begin with? Only pre-approved options handed to you by culture, marketing, and expectation. Look around. People pick careers based on stability, not passion. They marry when the timeline says it's time. They buy what society tells them signals success. And each of these feels like a decision, a conscious act of choice, when in reality, it's more like clicking accept all on a set of terms you never read. That's not autonomy, that's programming disguised as freedom. The most dangerous part, it doesn't come as oppression, but as suggestion. The world rarely says, you must. It whispers, you should. You should be productive. You should settle down. You should want more. Those shoulds slip into our language, our self-talk, our identity, until wanting something different feels like rebellion. History is full of these invisible cages. In the past, conformity was enforced by religion, tradition, or monarchy. Step outside the norm and you were labeled heretic or traitor. Today, the chains are subtler. They're made of metrics and social proof. Instead of priests or kings, we have influencers, algorithms, and corporate narratives telling us what a good life looks like. The tools have changed, but the mechanism remains the same. Shape the individual to serve the system, not the other way around. And maybe that's why so many people feel restless even when they've made it. Deep down, something in us knows that genuine freedom doesn't come from ticking the right boxes. It comes from realizing you can throw the list away entirely. But awareness is just the first crack in the illusion. The real transformation begins when you start to ask, what do I actually want, and what have I merely been told to want?
Next, breaking the mold, reclaiming your narrative. How to step off the scripted path and begin writing your own. At first, the cracks appear quietly. It's that subtle dissonance between the life you have and the one you secretly imagine when no one's watching. You've checked the boxes, followed the script, yet something feels off. That quiet sense of unfulfillment isn't failure, it's feedback. It's the signal that your soul has started rejecting the default settings. Most people ignore it. They drown it in busyness, distractions, or another round of maybe next year. But if you listen, really listen, that discomfort becomes your compass. It's the first sign that you're ready to reclaim your narrative. So where do you start? Begin with an audit, not of your finances, but of your beliefs. Write down everything you think you should be: successful, responsible, admired, secure. Then ask, for each one, who told me this matters? If the answer traces back to culture, family, or fear, cross it out. That's not your voice. That's inheritance. Next, try something radical. Do one small thing that contradicts your shoulds. Take a weekend without productivity. Wear something that doesn't fit your image. Spend an hour pursuing something purely because it excites you, not because it earns approval. These acts may seem trivial, but each one rewires your sense of agency. You're teaching your mind that permission isn't something you wait for, it's something you give yourself. History celebrates the few who had the courage to do this on a larger scale, people who redefined what success could mean. Artists who abandoned prestige to pursue passion, innovators who ignored ridicule to follow intuition. They weren't fearless, they were simply willing to be misunderstood long enough to become free. And that's the essence of breaking the mold, realizing that authenticity isn't a destination, it's a daily act of defiance. Each choice that aligns with your truth, no matter how small, is a rebellion against the default human program.
Because when you stop chasing the version of life handed to you, you finally make space for the one that's been waiting within you all along.
Next, authenticity isn't about loud defiance. It's quiet clarity. What you gain and what you lose when you choose to live your truth.
Conformity always seems harmless at first. It promises safety, belonging, predictability. You do what's expected, you play your part, and for a while, it works. But the cost doesn't show up immediately. It accumulates quietly, like interest on a debt you didn't know you owed. Over time, the weight of living someone else's idea of right begins to erode you from the inside. The spark fades. Joy feels forced. You start to sense that your life fits perfectly, except it doesn't fit you. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, that mental friction between what you do and what you actually believe. Stay in it long enough and it becomes emotional numbness. You stop feeling fully alive because you're too busy maintaining the illusion of having it all figured out. The result isn't just dissatisfaction, it's a slow erosion of identity. But authenticity, though often harder, restores what conformity drains. When your actions align with your values, even small moments feel amplified. There's a kind of peace that comes from knowing you're not performing. You may disappoint others, you may lose comfort or approval, but what you gain is presence, a sense that your life finally means something because it's undeniably yours. Think about people like Vincent van Gogh, who painted in obscurity, ridiculed by society, yet left behind art that reshaped how we see the world. Or Rosa Parks, who refused to move not because it was convenient, but because it was true. These individuals weren't chasing rebellion, they were chasing alignment. And that alignment, that fearless authenticity, is what leaves a mark far beyond any fleeting comfort conformity can offer. Authenticity isn't about loud defiance, it's quiet clarity. It's choosing truth over approval, purpose over performance. The joy it brings isn't euphoric, it's grounding. It's the feeling of returning home to yourself after years of pretending. And once you've tasted that freedom, going back to the default is no longer an option.
Next, designing your undefault life. How to turn awareness into action and build a life that finally feels like your own.
So you've seen the cracks. You feel the dissonance. The question is no longer if the default path is a trap, but how you step off it. How do you design a life that isn't just a replica of someone else's dreams? This isn't about a single dramatic rebellion. It's about the daily, deliberate practice of building something that is authentically yours. It begins with a skill so simple, yet so revolutionary. Learning to say no, not with anger, but with clarity. Every no to an external demand that doesn't align with your core is a resounding yes to your own sovereignty. Start small. Decline the invitation that would drain you. Resist the urge to buy something because it signals status. Unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate. Each no is a brick in the boundary wall that protects your newfound autonomy. It's a quiet rebellion that rewires your neural pathways from seeking external validation to trusting internal guidance. But you cannot do this in a vacuum. The default world is an echo chamber. To break its hold, you must curate a new chorus of voices. Actively seek out your truth tellers, the people who don't just tolerate your individuality, but celebrate it. This isn't your entire social circle, it's your sacred inner council. These are the friends who ask, "What do you want?" Not, "When are you going to settle down?" They are the mentors, authors, and creators who model a different way of being. Your community should be a greenhouse for your unique growth, not a pruning shear that cuts you down to a manageable, conventional size. Think of Frida Kahlo, who transformed personal pain and cultural expectations into a unique artistic language that defied every convention. Or Steve Jobs, who, for all his complexities, insisted on building a company that put a dent in the universe by thinking differently, not by following the tech industry's existing playbook. They didn't just have an idea. They built ecosystems through their work and their relationships that supported their unconventional vision.
The grandest illusion is that transformation requires a grand gesture. It doesn't. It requires a single, small, intentional step taken today. What is one default setting you can challenge before the sun sets? It could be as simple as spending 15 minutes on a forgotten hobby, writing down a dream you've been too embarrassed to voice, or having a conversation that scares you. This small act is the pinprick that begins to deflate the entire bubble of expectation.
Dismantling the default human trap is the work of a lifetime, lived one undefaulted day at a time. It's not about reaching a destination called authentic me, but about enjoying the messy, thrilling, and uniquely yours journey of becoming.
Next, the final choice: to live by default or to design.